Hey everyone, Michelle here and welcome back to my channel and welcome to my November and December wrap up. Why the two together? Well, I really should be calling this wrap up the Clear Your Shit wrap up because this is a readathon that starts the 1st of November right through to the 27th of December. So because my TBRs were for this readathon, the wrap ups have to be together. I have about 20-ish books on me for this wrap up, but there are some DNFs. Now normally I do show my DNFs before I go into my actual books I actually read and finished, but I have actually already unhauled all my DNFs. They were going to a lovely colleague of mine, so I couldn't make her wait for them. And for that reason, I'm not going to start with the DNFs. I'm just going to go through what I read in the order I read it, and then as I come to a DNF, I'll show you a picture, tell you the prompt it was for, and tell you why I DNF'd. The great thing about Clear Your Shit, a DNF still means prompt reached or completed, which is really good because there's 24 prompts, and me being me, when it comes to November, I'm extremely busy in work, and December was just a crap month for me work-wise and personal-wise, and I wouldn't have been able to try and squeeze more books in. So I will stop rambling and get on with the wrap-up. So the first two comics I read were Saga Volume 4 and 5. These were for the prompts shortest book and smallest book. I rated both these comics 5 stars. I adore this series. The best way to describe this series, a war that spans the universe, two warring sides, two like Romeo and Juliet in space with gore and a little bit of nudity and a language that I call blue that I don't understand but I giggle at, and I think I just about know what they say, but I love the artwork in this. I'm trying not to show you anything that is spoilery. Where are we? What's not spoilery? Yeah, so that's not spoilery. But I love the artwork. There's not much gore in there, but there is nudity. So I won't show you too much, but I love it. It's so different from the books I read, and when I'm not feeling up to it, it's a nice, short, it's just lovely to get away from big thick books and have something that I can go through in half an hour, especially if I'm not feeling great. It's lovely to have that option. So yeah, they were the first two off the TBR. The next book for a book where someone dies is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I give this book 3.5 stars. Again, another hyped book where I just didn't get the hype. While I enjoyed the story overall, I didn't see any growth in Gideon, which I think a lot of people like hype this character, and I was just like, why to an extent? I understand why they did certain things, I just didn't see any growth, like at the end when they were kind of worried about people. I was like, I don't get that. There were far too many characters for me to remember. A lot of the times I had to sit there for like a couple of minutes thinking, where are you from again? Who actually are you? What are you related to this story? And at times I did find the world building a little bit weak. But I have heard from Ada and from many other people that the sequel, Harrow the Ninth, is a lot better. And if I'm honest, I did prefer Harrow in this book. Again, I understood where she came from more than Gideon, and I am looking forward to reading her story later this year. I know the third book comes out this year as well, I think, so if I could get to that one when it comes out, that'd be great. But yeah, 3.5 stars. Not something that we all know now. Hyped books are not my forte majority of the time. Before I say the next book, if you keep seeing me going like that, it's because my book journal's on my bed, so I can have a quick look at it and just be like, that's what this book's for. For the prompt, a book where people go on a journey, I read Kingdom of the Cursed by Kerry Maniscalco, and I give this book 5 stars. I adore Kerry's work. I loved Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and I am loving the Kingdom of the Wicked series as well. I love Amelia and Wrath. I just think they just make each other better, if that makes sense. I love the world building. I love seeing Hell and the layers and the brothers and how this story twists and turns, and the first book, King of the Wicked, was a YA. This is a NA, so a new adult book, and you can tell the difference. But I enjoyed the little bit of spice that we got. One thing I did say to Ada was I enjoyed how spicy it was without being too descriptive. So I quite enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the progress of the book. This was one where the second book in the series didn't feel like a filler book, which I think a lot of people do feel at times. So I am looking forward to the third book when that comes out. I am hoping it is as soon as possible. The next book I read was For the Prompt, a book that people talk about, so obviously a hyped book. And for that one I read Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. I gave this 4 stars. This is I did see the hype for this book. I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I would. I really enjoyed it. The world building was great and the descriptions were great, but I read Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. Is it somewhere on here? Yes, it is. I read Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim last year as well, and I really enjoyed that book, so I thought I would enjoy this one as well. And like I said, I understood where the hype came from. I did enjoy the magic in this book as well, and that's one thing that I tend to find with YA. It's very hit and miss with the magic. I either really enjoy it or I really don't enjoy it. But I really enjoyed it. Why didn't it get 5 stars if I liked it? I did think the reveal of the big evil was a bit... It was one where I was like, okay, that's nice. You know, I didn't feel like, oh my god, or yes, you must get this person. It's like, okay, cool. Carry on the story. I also did see the romance coming. It was a bit obvious. And I do have a fear that in the second book there may be a love triangle formed, but I don't want there to be because I quite like the friendship our main character has with the potential third party. But it's YA, majority of the time it does lead into more of a triangle rather than relationship. Here's hoping I'm wrong. For the Prompt, a book that was recommended to you, I read For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. As you can see by the sticky note, this is one that Ada gifted to me because Ada really enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. I had heard that this book was Red Riding inspired and it's all Red Riding Hood, and I wasn't feeling the Red Riding, the whole... I get why people say it's Red Riding inspired, but no, once I stopped thinking of this as a Red Riding Hood book and as Red Riding Hood characters, I enjoyed it a heck of a lot more. I loved our romance, I loved the magic, the description of the forest, and even though you were just in one place, how expansive it felt while you were reading it. While I did enjoy the romance, it was obvious who it was going to be, so yeah. But that didn't take away the lightness from it. I did feel our side characters were a bit more developed than our main characters, which I was quite surprised by. I'm hoping in the sequel that changes. And the way this book is left off, I have a fear of who the romance will be between. Yes, that makes sense, in the sequel, and if it is, I will not enjoy that. An enjoyable book though. I think the sequel comes out this year, so this is definitely a duology I would love to finish this year. And after a string of good books, I had to obviously get one that I only rated 2 stars. For the book group cast, I chose Lost in the Neverwood by Aidan Thomas, and I give it 2 stars. 2 stars is purely for the magic and the story with the family, like the side story. I didn't enjoy the romance between our main character and Peter. You could have had the same impact with it just being a friendship, because that's what it started off with, and the effect was already happening, so you didn't need it to be a relationship. The big bad, even though you know who it is from like kind of the get-go, it felt like a bit of a letdown. I actually would have preferred the human big bad at the end to be the big bad for the duration of the story, rather than the paranormal, I will say, or magical element. This was a mixture of realism, thriller and magical, and I just didn't like the blend. I was thinking of reading Cemetery Boys because I know a lot of people really, really rate that for Maiden. I am debating whether or not to read it. I haven't bought it yet. It's on my to look at, to buy list, and this just kind of made me not want to read it, unfortunately. But another book that will be on hold. And for free space, I read Platform 7. Again, another book I rated 2 stars. We didn't need the extra paranormal element to this book. I did like the premise. I liked some of the writing and a bulk of the story. I also enjoyed the one police officer who actually did their job. Can you tell what one of my dislikes will be? This book makes the police seem like they are crap at their job. From the little that you interact with them, they seem absolutely rubbish, and I hate that. I hate this. I just didn't like that at all. The casual drop of CSA as a side plot, while that wasn't needed, we could have had a CA side plot that I personally would feel. I feel it would have probably made more sense with it to fit with the main plot rather than CSA. I just felt that wasn't needed. Them characters would have still been involved without a plot, without that being the plot. And the ending, I know not every book has to have a happy ending, but for this one, I think it would have been so much better if there had been a happy ending. And our big bad did get his comeuppance, but that didn't happen. This is, as you can tell, a book that's already gone to a colleague of mine who I hope enjoys it a lot more than I did. And for the prompt to steal a book from someone's TBR, because they were reading the Inheritance Games, I stole the sequel, The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I gave this 4 stars. I enjoyed this so much more than I thought I would. I again, not a book, not a sequel, I should say, that felt like a filler, which I'm loving. I need more of that in my life. I enjoyed how the mystery continued, even though it felt finalised in the first book. I like how it actually continued in this sequel without feeling like a drag. And it had developed kind of naturally. It didn't feel like it was dragging over old wounds. Main plot wise, romance wise, I'll get to that. There were obvious red herrings, but because they were obvious, I was able to kind of skip over them and keep my attention onto the main bulk of this story. I liked the majority of twists. I like the writing. Let's get into the romances. Why do we need 3 potential love triangles? Well, one definite and a second one that may as well be one. We don't need it. At the ending, we have the conclusion of one of these love triangles. Well, I think we do. I have a fear in the 3rd book that love triangle may come back round. And if the adults could start acting like adults, that would be absolutely fab. And a lot of people I think don't see the adult romance in this as a love triangle. I kind of do, just at the amount of times she's his ex, and I don't know what they're actually labelling it. Why do there have to be a label? Why does it have to be pointed out that they may be in a relationship? Why can't they just be friends with benefits? You know, keeping each other company. I think if the triangles carry on in the 3rd book and they're not definitely sorted, it will just not make me like the 3rd book. Like I said, the main love triangle does look like it has been signed, sealed, delivered on who she's picking, but I have a fear that's not the case. Also, Melly should have been sacked in the 1st book. I'm sorry, but if she comes back in this 3rd one, I will not be giving it a good rating at all. And for the prompt, a spooky book, I read The Devil Makes 3 by Tori Bovalino. I give this 3 stars. This could have been an amazing book. Unfortunately, it let me down. I saw every twist. I saw the cliches. At times this did feel like a draft, I'm not gonna lie. I read this book during a time where I couldn't concentrate on much. There was, because of what's going on in my personal life, I just needed something that I knew would be easy to read, and because it's a YA, I know this would be a good pick, and it just gets a 3 stars just because it helped me through a bad time in my life. However, it is getting on hold because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. If I keep cutting, I do apologise. There's a lot of traffic outside today, so I'm just trying to get rid of the cars as and when I can. The next book, The Lamplighters, I DNF'd. I hated the 6 POVs. We didn't need that. We didn't need the toing and froing and the toing and froing, and not my cup of tea. Again, another book gone to my colleagues, so hopefully she enjoys it a lot more than I did. For the prompt water theme or element, I read Nightfall's Still Missing by Helen Callaghan. I give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. I kind of said a few months ago that I feel, because I read so many thrillers and crimes, that I tend to read some new people and be like, oh, I kind of saw all this coming, and it's a downfall of that being my favourite genre. But with this one, I still really liked it. It was kind of what I needed after DNFing The Lamplighters and having such a bad time, I'll say, with The Devil Makes 3. It was an easy, quick read. I think I read it in like 3 hours, which is good for me. I loved the flow. There was no stopping and starting. It was like a river. It continued to flow. I love the description of the Orkney Isles. I've been to Scotland before. I was meant to be going to Edinburgh this year. It looks like it's not happening. But the description of the Orkney Isles, I want to go there. I want to go there on my own if needed. But yeah, I just want to visit this site. I believe the majority of the relationships between these characters, which is quite shocking because normally I don't. The one I didn't believe, between the main character and her supposed best friend, there were a lot of things that they kept from each other. So for me, it was like, is this really a best friendship, or is this just we used to be close friends and we're just keeping in contact because we have no one else? For the prompt, an animal on the cover, I read Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko. I give this 4.5 stars. This is a sequel to Redemptor. I love this. It was the perfect way to end this duology. The story picked up right where it left off. It continued to be developed at a nice steady pace. There was no stopping and starting. The characters developed quite well. I loved our little twists. The reason I didn't get 5 stars is because I don't believe that one of the people who got a redemption arc should have got a redemption arc. And I think you may know who that is if you have read this book. I also liked, while the majority of the storylines in here were wrapped up, there were a few that had a few edges still open, so that if Jordan wanted to come back to this world, she could do without it feeling forced or just a money grab, which I quite enjoyed. For another free space, I read The Split by Sharon Bolton. I give this 3 stars. I guess the twist for this book, just by reading the title, The Split, it was very obvious to me what the twists were going to be. The writing was good though. I have to say the writing was good, but the little hints were obvious. So at times I did feel like this was a step-by-step book. The majority of the characters were well developed. Josh was a creep. I don't understand why we were made to feel like we had to root for him. But this is one for the unhaul, I'm afraid. Then for the mystery prompt, which was to read your most recent purchase, I read All of Us Villains by Amanda Foodie and Christine Lynn Herman, I give this 3.5 stars. Can someone point to me where the villains are? Apart from the ancestors, because these main characters were not villains. These were kids who were forced into a situation that majority of them didn't want to be in, and they had no choice over the matter, really. I did enjoy the backstory to this story. I have to say, the story of how all this game came about, I enjoyed. Yeah, the magic was okay. The world building was okay. The majority of the characters, the main four, it was good. I have to say that was the best thing out of this book. I feel the character development. But the only reason I'm carrying on this series is for Alistair. I feel he is a character to look out for, and I kind of just want to see if he develops even more. The next 2 books were DNF. So firstly, for the mystery to read the pre-order, I tried to read the Thursday Murder Club. This was so slow. The chapters were averaging about 3 to 4 pages each. I DNF'd just before the 50% mark, and I think it was like 40%, and I was on chapter 48. There was something like 150 odd chapters in this book, and it was like a 400-page book. It was so slow. So slow. Definitely, I think, one that I pre-ordered because of the hype, and again, I don't do hyped books. My other DNF was the Jasmine Throne. That was for Intimidating book. I had no desire to read the story. Nothing was making me want to read that book, and I thought it was it sounded really good. The premise sounded so good. When I started reading it, it just wasn't for me. The next book I read, for a book I don't remember the details of, was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Sapia. I give this 3 stars. This rating is purely for the mental health rep in here. I saw myself. I'll link my vlog down below where this is in. I think it's my 3-week one, so I apologise. But I saw myself and my family in these characters, and the way they dealt with mental health. So that's the reason it got this rating. The parents were neglectful. Wallace was a bit of a creep. Yeah, 1 for the unhaul. And for the prompt purple cover, I read The Winter Garden by Alexandra Bell. I gave this 5 stars. I adore this book. This is a similar writing style to The Starless Sea and The Night Circus, that magical realism. It worked. I love this so much. The writing, the relationships, the flow, the open/closed ending. I loved it all. Definitely an author I will be keeping an eye out for in future. And for the prompt fantasy and the big boss battle prompt, which for me was to read the sequel, I read Lady Smoke by Laura Sebastian. 4 stars. I enjoy this one. It did feel like a little bit, just a tad bit of a filler book, but I think for me it got the 4 stars because the characters developed quite well. Eventually the story had got to a place where I understood where the 3rd book was going. It was very obvious, I should say, that majority of this story was just there just to bring in other characters that we'll read about in the 3rd book. The love triangle, hated it. I wish I wanted it to end in this one, but it was just hanging on by a thread at the end, and I just wanted it done and complete. Even though it was obvious who she was choosing, I did feel at times she was stringing on one of the boys. I did enjoy it though. I think I enjoyed it for nostalgia for the 1st book, because I enjoyed that one so well. But yeah, 4 stars. For the prompt, a female or non-binary MC, I read Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. 4 stars. An easy read, well-developed characters, and easy flow to the story. However, I did feel there were some little plot holes, and the ending was a little underwhelming. I loved Stacey's other 2 books. I can't remember the names of them, but their stories do stick with me. Even though I can't remember the names, I remember the stories, I remember how I felt. this one won't be staying with me, unfortunately. For the prompt, opulent, I DNF'd She Who Became the Sun. I enjoyed the main character, I enjoyed the first part with her and her development. Once we started introducing the second characters, like the secondary set of characters, I lost interest. I wasn't bothered what they were doing, so I just DNF'd. And with that, I reached the end of Clear Your Shit. I did half participate in the end of the readathon. So Mrs. England was one of their books as well. I can't remember the prompts, I do apologise. But for my last book of the year, I read Ember Queen by Laura Sebastian. 5 stars. This, while I knew how the trilogy would end, this was the perfect ending. The love triangle was done and dusted within the first 100 pages. The characters were nicely fleshed out. That the words flowed, the descriptions were perfect. The story went. It ended the way it had to end, and it ended really well. And I'm so glad I have found a new author to keep an eye out for. And there you have my wrap up for November and December. A majority good couple of months, despite what was going on personally and work-wise. So yeah, have you read any of these books? Do you have any different thoughts than I do? If you do, let me know. I love participating in Clear Your Shit. I can't wait, I should say, for 2.5, which is in April or June, not June, because it was whatever-a-thon. I can't wait for it to come back around again. So yes, if you like this video, please give it a like. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Michelle. I read a variety of genres, as you can tell. I don't class what I do as reviewing, but I'm trying to get better at it. Hopefully I have got better. If you are new and you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I have a goal to hit 50 subscribers in 2022. If you don't want it, that's not a problem. No pressure. But until next time, bye.